So after finishing my Dead Space review, I moved on to playing Dead Space 2, and I thought it would be kind of fun and interesting to do a tier list. I'm playing Dead Space 2 on Zealot with the no death difficulty, and I thought it would be pretty interesting to go through all the enemies that game has to offer and take a look to see which ones I think was more of a threat versus others. I've died so far like 5 times, but I just thought this would be an enjoyable thing to do. So I'm going to go from left to right, top to bottom, and we're going to start off with the Brute, which I believe is going to be either an A tier or an S tier. I say this because the guy, it just got such a huge boost from Dead Space 1. In Dead Space 1, if you shoot the back of the knees, it would die. You just stasis it and give it a couple shots. But in this one, once you shoot those knees off, he actually starts... he stays stationary and starts shooting projectiles at you, which does a ton of damage. However, if you can grab this and toss it back, it's not so bad, but the guy is a huge threat, and the damage he does, if he does connect with his charge attack on you, is substantial. It is a severe hit. It is not to be taken lightly. So he's either A or an S. I'm gonna leave him an A now. If I decide that I should bump him up a little bit, we'll do that a little bit later. Let's go on and we'll start with this, the baby. I forget what they're called. I think they're called crawlers. I could be wrong. But I do think they're called crawlers, and they're pretty simple to kill. I'm either thinking D or C with this one. I'm not entirely sure. They come in numbers, which I guess can be kind of a hassle, but for the most part, you can just kind of hit them with any type of object, a chair or something. Just hit them a couple times and they'll die. Additionally, you can use their bodies to kind of blow up other babies, which saves you ammo, and I don't think that they're that difficult to deal with, and you don't deal with them on a consistent basis. So I'm gonna leave them in D for now. The next one on here is the Cyst, and the Cyst is pretty easy. I think if you just go really slow whenever you see these cysts, it's not too bad. The biggest threat about them is just their damage output, but if you can take your time, you can actually use these things to your advantage. Necromorphs will come charging at you, and you can kind of let them run over this, or when they shoot out that like little yellow bomb, you can grab it and toss it towards the Necromorphs, or even use it against the Cysts themselves. Either way, you can kill these things without spending any type of ammo, and they're really not that dangerous. Just take your time, take a look at the walls, and as far as I can tell, and through my playthroughs, they haven't been that difficult to worry about. That's a threat though. Then there's the Divider. Again, I don't think the Divider is that dangerous. Even when he breaks off into his little pieces, like just stasis him and then throw a couple rounds into him, and then when he spreads off into those other objects, you can just shoot him a couple times with a plasma cutter and they kind of fall over dead. Don't get me wrong, I think the death animation is cool. I think they're a creepy looking enemy, but I don't think that they're very much of a threat. I think they're over the babies and stuff, just because all of them can swarm you and do a little bit of damage, but I really don't think the Divider is that bad. What's next? I think this is called the Exploder. I'm not entirely sure. I think so. These guys suck on Zealot because their damage range when they blow up that yellow blob is enormous. And it is so much damage. I have died twice to him on Zealot so far on my no death runs, and just the amount of damage that they can output with that thing, it's almost better to just stasis them and then hit them in like the limb here, in the face, just anywhere to avoid this thing. Especially when they jump out of the vent right next to you, you're kind of going to be inclined to get rid of them as fast as possible. But when you do that, you're gonna die. So I'm putting him up here with A tier. Which makes me think that I should put the Brute up a little bit higher. Yeah, we'll put the Brute up one. I think that's best. I think these are called Guardians. I'm just setting it here in B for now. The Guardians, super easy to kill, super easy. What you do is once they push out all these tentacles and stuff, if you switch to the pulse rifle and then you go with the underbarreled grenade, you can just kind of hit this guy's square center in the chest when he has everything out, and he'll die in one grenade shot, and you get yourself some ruby semiconductors. So if anything, I look at these as like a cash grab right? A nice little bit of money to get. So definitely not a B. I don't want to rank them on the same level as this and this, but I feel like I have to. I think that they're that easy. I really do. And not much of a threat to Isaac at all. What else? The Infectors. Absolutely a threat. Not necessarily to Isaac, but in what they do. By making those enhanced monsters that take more ammo and do more damage to Isaac. That's why they're so much of a threat in the battlefield. I would ignore almost everything else in this list and focus on just these in any given combat scenario. So these are up high for an obvious reason. I don't think many people would disagree with me in that notion. Yeah, I don't think these are lurkers. These are leapers. These are leapers. You definitely either A or B, right? They got a huge nerf from Dead Space 1. They don't move as slow, especially when they're on those two hands. They really move really fast, and you have to deal with them because the moment you see them, they're already at your feet. So it's not a choice really. But the question is do they warrant a B or an A ranking? I'm gonna leave him in B for now, and then I'll make my judgment onto whether or not he'll get promoted to A. Yeah, we'll leave him in B. Next are, I think these are the lurkers. Lurkers made out of babies. These aren't too bad, honestly. You just, plasma cutter these two off and you're fine. You can even use the pulse rifle and shoot a grenade at them. That works too when they're out. Kinesis, what is it, TK? Just pick up any of those like rods or something and like beam towards the face of the baby, and that seems to work out pretty well. I don't think that they're that crazy. But would I put these two in the same category? I'm gonna put this one down here for now. I'm gonna come back to this one. I think this is a perfect place for this one. And I think these are good too. I don't know. These are definitely A. I'm just trying to think. Maybe S. Definitely A. We'll just keep going. I'll come back and review these later. Next one on the list is Nest. The Nest. Or the different types of nests that you see. They got those like 3 yellow blobs and they shoot out those homing things. Don't think they're too terribly difficult, right? You just hit them with some stasis and then just shoot them a couple times with whatever, gun you're using. And you get a nice ruby semiconductor normally out of them. Not too difficult. Definitely more of a threat than any of these. I'm going to put them on like the same level of difficulty as I guess the Divider. I think that's appropriate. Now the Pact. Fuck these kids. As one individual, not dangerous at all. It's the swarm of them that overwhelm Isaac and really cause problems. So I view the encounter as a whole with the Pact, because you'll never just fight one of them. You always fight a group. And I would say I'm going to put them on the same level as B again. They're not too terribly difficult. You just pull out a pulse rifle and just one shot usually kills them. Or you can kill them, pick up the body, and then shoot it at other babies, and that typically works as well. But I think B is a good spot for the Pact. I don't think it's too crazy. This thing is supposed to be a pods. It's what the Guardians shoot out if you leave them up for too long. And so they're super easy. You just shoot the one cord and they die. I know it doesn't seem fair to have the thing that creates them place it here, but I'm telling you, like, I don't even get to see these things because this guy's already dead. So, I mean, if anything, like, this guy shouldn't even be on the list, but it is. By Dead Space 2 wiki standards, that's considered an enemy here. So we'll just leave that there. The next one will be Pregnant, or the Pregnant. Not too difficult. Definitely an interesting mechanic with dealing with the belly, right? Because if you hit it in the belly, then these like fleshy swarms spawn, which we'll just go ahead and place in D. These are easy to take care of. Shoot them once, throw a grenade, they're dead. They're little small creatures, not a big deal. But the Pregnant is definitely going to go up a little bit higher. I think in terms of threat for Isaac, he's a big threat. And you have to deal with him. But you can't deal with them until after you usually get past all these speedy boys, right? So yeah, I think B is a pretty good spot for him. I usually just throw Kinesis and then attack the arm, grab the arm and rip it off and aim for the other arm. And that's been working pretty well for me. Next one is the Puker. I think the Puker is going to be good right here. Yeah, I think the Puker... I place it here, but I don't really get damaged by them. And their big gimmick is that they can hit you with vomit and slow you way down so other things can hit you. But I don't know how other people play the game, but I like to sit in a corner when I know an encounter's going off, and I kind of defend that corner with my life. So getting hit by that puke, it doesn't do a lot of damage, it slows me down, but I'm not really moving anyway. So these aren't a huge priority to me, if I'm being honest. So I think I'm going to drop them down one. Yeah, I think he's okay at C. The next one is slashers. These are just your typical Dead Space enemies. I feel like it'd only be appropriate to place them in B, right? You have to deal with them. They're not too dangerous, but they are a threat. More of a threat than this, or the Twitcher. Or not Twitcher, that's not a Twitcher. Or the Divider. So I think B is a good spot for them, and so we'll keep them there. This, if you didn't know, I didn't know this, right? But these actually differ from slashers. There's something called a spitter. They're more fleshy. They're the female counterpart of a necromorph, right? So females that get turned into it. A lot of lore behind this. But they can actually shoot acid at you at a short range. I never knew this. I think I just kill them before I ever have a chance to worry about them because they just seem easier to kill. But yeah, apparently they can spit off some acid. Truth be told, I never viewed them any differently than a slasher. I thought they were always a slasher. But I feel like they're weaker, right? Like, this could just be me, right? And this whole chart is subjective, right? It's not an objective view. But I think the spitters are... I just think they're weaker, right? I think they take less shots, they're easier to kill, and you don't see them as much. So I'm going to place them one down below. I don't think they're as much as a threat as everything else. Now these things, you typically don't find them with other necromorphs. I mean, you can, right, towards the end of the game, but for the most part, they're usually in a giant group around them. So in terms of threat, they're either B or A. They're either B or A. Because they can do a massive amount of damage at you. Should they hit you when they're charging, but they're also not too difficult. Like if they give a lot of tells by showing their head. You can hit them in the head with, like, I don't know, a spear that you found on the ground, or when they do start running at you, you hit them at the leg and then the arm. I thought these were worse than what they are. I almost placed it, you know, I talked myself down. I was like, maybe an A, but no, definitely not an A. Maybe a B. Maybe a B. Once I get this chart up here, I'm going to go back and revise it real quick. I'll just make sure that that's actually what I want. So, the next one is the Tormentor. You really only encounter this once in the beginning, right when you get to meet Dana. This guy comes out of nowhere. Not too difficult. It's really a quick time event, not a quick time event, right? Like, it's just shoot the weak spots and then run away from it, and then that's all you ever see of this thing. So for an encounter, right, he looks super menacing, and it's a shame that that's all you see of him, but I have to place him in D. I wish you could have fought him more, but I'm sorry. D is where it has to be. Okay, alright. This guy's easily an A, if not definitely an S class. This is the tripod. Probably not the best picture for it, but this is one of those tripod ones. You fight it early on. It's got those two arms and then that tongue that comes out. This thing has killed me twice now. And what makes him so difficult is just how much he loves to jump around the map. Stasis is a great tool to use against him. And then just kind of focus firing, you know, one arm so that he starts crawling. Because once he starts crawling, you take away his jump. And once you take away his jump, it's easier to fight him. But you encounter these a couple different times throughout the game. I think they're pretty difficult. They're definitely a high damage output, especially on Zealot. 2 hits without healing and you're dead. So definitely an A rank, as far as I can tell. I think they deserve this spot. Okay, so the Ubermorph, right? Now, in terms of threat, like not thematically, how do I word this? In terms of an addition to a game, right? He should be an S, right? Like, I think that's where he would belong. It just seems like he'd be there. But in terms of threat, I mean, it's just a slasher that you can't kill. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he does anything special. He's just menacing in that, you know, he just keeps regenerating. Nothing a little stasis can't help with. So much of a lot of people's probably not in agreement with me, I'm gonna place him in B for now. Okay, so I'm gonna come back to this crawler, and I think it's definitely, after adding all these, it's definitely a step above most of them. So I'm gonna definitely place him in A, especially once you get the enhanced ones. They just move so quick, and you have to deal with them even almost, yeah, I would say over an infector, right? Because they're so quick. They're there. They're right at your feet, and you just have to start shooting. Or stasis. You almost always take a hit from them too. That's how fast they show up out of nowhere. Terms of threat. Do I want to promote any of these? The brute is right where he needs to be. I feel like that's a good spot for the brute. The infector should, you know, he belongs in A, because in and of itself, it's not that dangerous. So it's not a threat. What it does is a threat. I don't want to just place this in S. It's, well, maybe. Yeah, I've had a couple bad issues with the tripods. I think we can put them in S, in an S tier. All right, let's look at, I think all these are fine. If anything, I think I'm going to downgrade the pack. I don't think that they're that bad. Really just find a corner and just hold that corner, and it's not a problem. But I think it needed to be dropped. The divider is still staying where it's staying. The nest is not bad. These guys don't hurt as much. Everything else is looking pretty good. I think that's it. I think that's what I'm gonna call my tier list for the Dead Space enemies of Dead Space 2. I wish I could have brought some of these higher, especially based off of just like storyline, because I'd love to place this one up higher. He's just got a menacing look. It's creepy, right? I love the design of the divider. I'd love to place this one higher. The Ubermorph I feel should be up top. I feel like the nest should be more higher. This should be more higher, but like we're going off a threat here, right? And a lot of these things down here, they just they don't bother me. They're not an issue. I don't have to worry about them. They're just not a problem. But yeah, that's gonna be the Dead Space tier list. If you like what you saw, I'd love to have you follow me on Twitch. Link will be in the description, and I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.